So radioactivity was discovered in 1896 by Antoine-Henri Becquerel. So I'm going to talk to you about the discovery and some of the history of radioactivity. I am not going to test you on this, but I think it's helpful to just hear history as sort of a story, just to kind of know how things have come about. So Becquerel hypothesized that the greenish glow of phosphorescence was associated with the emission of X-rays, invisible X-rays. So phosphorescence is a natural phenomenon. I remember once as a child up at the lake in Minnesota, out in the dark, there's this green glow. I'm like, what the heck, right? It was a tree stump. And the tree stump was decaying, and as it decayed, it turned into something that was phosphorescent. And so it would absorb light from the sun during the day, and then it would glow in the dark at night. Natural thing. So back in the 1800s, they had seen things like this. And of course, a good scientist is going to want to figure out, why is it doing this? What is this thing? So he said, well, I think it's X-rays. So he exposed crystals, potassium uranyl sulfate crystals, phosphorus. He exposed them to sunlight and placed them on a covered photographic plate. So not directly on the photographic plate, which would expose the plate, but he covered the plate with a black cloth and put the crystals on top of the black cloth. And what he found was that there was an exposure spot where the crystals had been. So that meant that something from the crystals went through the cloth and into the plate and exposed it. And this is the sort of image he got. So it's almost like a shadow of the crystals sitting on the plate. So, interesting. So he's all excited that this is, he's discovered something. Phosphorescence and X-rays are the same thing, and he even presented his results to the French Academy of Sciences. But he found out later, and had to retract his results, when he realized that you got that dark exposure spot even if the crystals had not been exposed to sunlight. Even if they were not phosphorescing. Phosphorescing is that greenish glow of glow-in-the-dark things, right? So you can get a glow-in-the-dark Frisbee or a glow-in-the-dark T-shirt, and if it's been exposed to light, then later in the dark it will release that, but eventually it runs out, right? And it stops. And to recharge it, you have to expose it to light again. So what he found was these crystals sitting in the drawer exposed the photographic plate even though they had not been exposed to light, and they were not phosphorescent. So the image he was getting was caused by something other than phosphorescence. So he realized that the crystals themselves were emitting something. What is it? You discover something, you get to name it. He called them Uranic Rays because the crystals had uranium in them. So enter Marie Curie. She was one of the first women in France to pursue doctoral work, so working on a PhD in science. So that was very, very unusual. So she was looking for other substances that emitted these uranic rays. And in the process of looking for that, she discovered two new elements, polonium and radium. She named polonium after her home country of Poland. Radium, the name comes from its high level of radioactivity. So radium is that almost cartoon-like element. It actually does glow and emits heat. It's extremely radioactive. So after discovering that these uranic rays could come from these other elements as well, and uranic ray isn't really a good name anymore, And so she changed the name to radioactivity. This is a picture of a watch with glow-in-the-dark markings on it. Now, you can get watches that glow in the dark today. Most of them actually just have a little bit of a light in them. But for a number of years, glow-in-the-dark watches like this had radium paint. So this actually has radium in it, and the reason it's glowing is it's radioactive. And people strap these on their wrists and walked around with them. Not a good idea. We know that now. So 1903, the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to Becquerel, Curie, and her husband, Pierre Curie, for the discovery of radioactivity. And then again in 1911, Marie Curie received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the discovery of polonium and radium. And there's a picture of Marie with two of her daughters. Of course, the very tragic thing about these early scientists who studied radioactivity is they did not understand how harmful it is to the body, and so they did not take any precautions to protect themselves, and so most of them died much earlier than they should have, side effects of their research. So literally, they gave their lives for science.